on this one thing. Good evening. It's Wednesday, June 18th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Calling the Lakeville Board of Health meeting to order. Is there anyone in the audience recording this? I see no one. LakeCAM is recording this. First on the agenda, 1 Violet Street, request from homeowner to use existing well. I guess I see. How you doing? You can just state your name and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Freestone.
Actually, just to clarify, it's not to use the well has been dismantled, but now they're asking it to, or the person close to the Board of Health wants it filled in, so I was just here to not have it filled in, it's not being used. So basically, I hired a company to do a Title V inspection on my home, to so that I could sell it. Upon that inspection, a water test was done, and it was found that my well was, contaminated, not good to be used. So I was told that I needed to tie into the Clark Shores water because the home is located in Clark Shores. So I did go ahead and do that. I did provide documentation as well if you wanted to see that. It did cost me close to $10,000 total to do that. As a single parent, it was really difficult for me to be able to do that, but I did do what they asked me to do. I actually even went a little extra and got a picture, had them take a picture of the well, like under the ground cut, so you could see that it's not being used. So prior to that, after that, I, informed them. Actually, I never even spoke to the Board of Health. I was going through the company that I hired, and he, came out. I provided all the documentation. The water was hooked up. Thought I was good to go. A couple weeks go by, and then I'm told again by the company that I had hired that now the well needs to be filled in. So I called the Board of Health, spoke to someone there. They said it wasn't their decision. I had to come here to advocate for it not to be filled in. There's no intentions of using the well for consumption. It's not even hooked up to the house. I did sell the house 2 weeks ago. The new owners, as far as I know, it's still hooked up to Clark Shores. From what I understand, they could use it for irrigation if they chose to in the future. But basically, that's why I'm here, is just to advocate to not have to have it filled in. I got some quotes for about $3,000 for them to do that.
Okay. I'll just probably turn it to Ed. I know when you were talking, I
spoke to Ed briefly on the phone, yes, but I've mostly been working with septic services. I actually hadn't gotten any correspondence or anything from Ed, which is why I called.
Yeah, so when septic services contacted me, I told him the septic system has failed because of the high nitrates. And he proposed, well, if I get rid of the well, is that an option? I'm like, yeah, if there's no contaminated well and that's decommissioned and you connect to Clark Shores water, then you can have a passing Title V. I guess he did not convey all that information to you. He just told you had to hook it to what you just said. That's unfortunate. I'm sorry that happened that way. But like I said, that's who I was communicating with. Mm-hmm. And in a Title V inspection, normally I just communicate with the inspector. The homeowner is welcome to call me, but I don't have the homeowner's phone number or anything, so it's mm-hmm. difficult for me to reach the homeowner in these situations. So that's why. So maybe he wasn't aware, but like I said, I told him, like, when that well is gone, the system passes. If that well is there, Title V clearly states, if there's a contaminated well on the property, you have to get rid of it to pass the system. Because like I said, the system passes, it works, it's working, but it fails because of a contaminated well. So as long as that contaminated well is there, it's a failed system.
I guess I'm confused because I know that there's a house behind me who sold a couple of years ago who well was also contaminated. They hooked up to Clock Shores water. Their well was never filled in. They're on Barberry. Azalea across from me, same situation. I don't know if I've recalled anyone's well being physically filled in. It's been disconnected. It's not being used for consumption. It's hooked up to Clock Shores water. The septic system is in good condition. It's working appropriately. I guess I don't see the necessity to have it actually filled in with concrete when it's not being used. It did what you asked, where it's not, it's, the contaminated well's done. It's, the pipe's cut. It's not being used.
In fact, just 2 weeks ago, they filled one on 3 Carry. So they do fill, well, it's not everyone. The one on Barberry that you're referring to, that was kind of a unique one because what it was is the person connected to and then tried to get another buildable lot on Azalea, I believe.
Yeah, it's right across from me.
Yeah, and that's why they, and that one didn't have, it did have high nitrates, but nothing near what yours has.
I guess like my other thing is like, I understand like you typically go through the company, but I'm being told that this well is so dangerous and contaminated, but yet I have not received any contact from Board of Health saying that I shouldn't be consuming the water or feeding it to my animals. I lived there for 13 years and used this well.
Did you ever have it tested?
I did 2 years ago.
And then gave it to us.
Yeah, I never gave it to you, but
So we
the
wouldn't know.
recent test, wouldn't you notify the person to let them know? I lived there for a month.
When we
just
got
it.
we got that, that's, as soon as I got that, I said that's a contaminated well, and like I said.
I still was never contacted to not consume the water. Yes, I was told by the company, but I feel like wouldn't there be some policy that it'd be contacted by the Board of Health?
Normally you are contacted, but in that case, the inspector said, I'm getting rid of the well and I'm gonna hook in the Clock Shores water. So if you're getting rid of the well, I wasn't gonna contact you to tell you not to drink the well.
Well, I did get rid of the well.
Right, so if the well is no longer being used and decommissioned, I don't have to send a letter, because normally we do send a letter, but if that well is decommissioned, there's no reason to send a letter.
So why am I being, like, you're telling me it's decommissioned, you're not gonna send me a letter, but yet I'm required to fill it in? That kind of
That's
doesn't make any sense to me.
That's
But you just said you didn't send a letter because it's decommissioned.
because
But now
it
I'm
was-
here because
No, 'cause it
you're
was
telling me it's
supposed to
not.
be decommissioned. Because they agreed to decommission it, is what he's saying. So he didn't do it because it wasn't gonna be used anymore. So he was told it was gonna be decommissioned to get the
Oh,
Title
okay,
V to pass.
okay.
And he
So-
went and inspected, you said the water, you made sure the water was tied in.
Yeah, the water was connected, and I
He
confirmed it
called
with
Clock Shores, so we knew it was tied in.
Well, I don't have the funds for $3,000 to fill this well in. I just wanted to come and advocate. It's not being used. They're hooked up to Clock Shores water. I have documentation to show that it's cut. I don't feel like it needs to be filled in. I tried to go online. I'm not, I don't work obviously for DEP, but it looked to me like a well is decommissioned, like usually filled in after it's abandoned for 3 years. But again, this was a different situation. So I'm just trying to advocate because I really cannot put any more money into
The biggest
this
concern is the next person
water.
cuts off the water supply and ties back into it.
Yeah.
And starts using it again. That's why.
The estimates you got, were they from licensed well drillers or just?
Well, yeah, it has to be someone, I mean, I can go pour some concrete in there myself, but I assume it has to be by someone who's licensed.
Correct.
So yeah, of course I did. That's why it's $3,000. I have invoices. I just spent 10 grand getting hooked into Clock Shores water.
Right, but to comply with Title V, I mean, it has to be, and that well also, we have no permitting on that well in our folder. So whoever had put in that well at 51 feet from the septic did it illegally.
Yeah, well, that was way before me. I
So it's
mean,
an unpermitted
so it
well
got a Title V when I bought it 13 years ago.
that has.
So someone passed it at
contaminated.
that point.
Is there a passing Title V in the folder from 13 years ago?
When they did
13
lot of
years
these
ago,
are
they put
cash.
in a new Title V. They put
They
in
did
a
the
new
septic,
system.
2011.
So I think it failed
But-
13 years ago, and then they put in a new Title V.
Well, they put in a new septic, but the
Right.
well was still the same distance from the septic.
Yeah,
That's what the
50
issue is. The new septic that you put in is the one that you're telling me is too close to the well. So why did they pass it 13 years ago if it was too close?
It's not too close. It's allowed to be passed over 50 feet, and this is 51 feet, so
Oh.
it's just over. There was nothing illegal done. But like I said, what the Title V does, it tries to get rid of contaminated wells. Now,
Yeah.
again, just vertical, horizontal distance is one indicator. There's a lot of indicators. One is it's upgrading and it's flowing down into it. That's why
Yeah.
it's so high. Again, the reason we're here is just, it's so high, 15. I mean, anything over 5, you can't give to a baby. Anything over 10 can kill a baby. So you're up at 15. That's why we're so concerned with this well.
Well, and I understand, which is why I went ahead and, you know, it took me a couple weeks to come up with 10 grand, but as soon as I could, I, you know, stopped using it and cut it off. I feel like I did what I should have done, you know?
You said you sold the house.
I did, yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Can you just, have the seller do it and take off the, whatever,
If they're willing to do it, I mean, that's something I guess you guys would have to, I don't even know them. I came to advocate because I felt like it was my due diligence to, since I just sold the house, technically it's not on me. But-
It is, it's the Title V is the responsibility to settle. It
Yeah.
can be transferred to the buyer with an agreement saying, you know, a lot of times you get an estimate, whether it's installing a septic or doing something with a well. You
Yeah.
get an estimate and then they just subtract that from the sale.
Well, it's already been done at this point.
Chris?
Have you,
I don't see
any other decommissioning companies out there? Have you heard like numbers?
I don't know of any. If I know it's a deep well, maybe that's why it's so much.
It is, it's
not a
like 20,
point.
I think you said 20 feet. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't really know.
Really deep.
20 feet, it's shallow.
That's shallow.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
Cheap.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have
You would have
no,
it somewhere else. Huh?
where we have no record of it, I would imagine it would be a shallow, not a deep one too.
Right, because somebody pull up with a ball.
Yeah, we don't.
I have, hold on, it might be on here. I have the inspection.
Yeah, I think if it's a point, that's an astronomically high number to cut a piece of plastic pipe off that's 2 inches in diameter.
I haven't seen it, so.
I-
you know.
But again, I don't see any way around it from my
And is it-
point.
Is it a well driller that we need to certify it, or an engineer too, or no? I couldn't remember. I thought
I have that in our folder. It's right in our approval. It has to be a year 21.3. The private well is to be properly abandoned. It must be done so through the health department with the appropriate permit by a licensed well driller per state guidelines. And that's why we make them do it
I mean, is there
properly.
another option besides filling it with something? Could you weld the top of it or something to avoid, I don't know, there's another cheaper option besides
I'm
actually
not
filling it
aware
with
of,
concrete or
It just
whatever
says
they
by
fill it
state
with.
guidelines, so the well driller, it's a well driller question, as long as they meet the state guidelines and certify it was filled and it can never be used again and decommissioned.
Did the people who gave you estimates look at the well, or did they just give you an estimate over them?
This was an estimate I got from the septic company. He contacted somebody. Cause honestly, like, to even get this,
Maybe just a schedule.
I mean, to get this done, I had to do payment plans. I literally just paid Clark Shores water off last week and I haven't been there for 2 weeks. Like I had to do, I was kind enough to find 2 people in Clark Shores that actually are licensed and helped me out. Mark Moore, and you probably know, he helped me out, did a payment plan with me. And then another plumbing company. So I was lucky enough to be able to get people, but it's hard to find people to do that. I'm a single parent. My husband passed away 7 years ago. I'm raising 4 kids of my own. Like, this is a lot of money for me to have to come up with.
And I think the next problem, I don't know if we could have, we might not have, is, like you said, you no longer own the property.
I don't. And so I'd have to,
We
you have to get permission from the homeowners to be able to go on it, and I don't know them at all.
But I don't know where we go. I mean, obviously, we should be sending a letter to the new homeowner, obviously, right, tomorrow, stating that
Yeah,
whatever
I
we
don't- I don't
decide,
have any
that-
contact
so they're
information.
aware
Have we,
of.
have we signed off on the certificate of compliance yet?
No.
There was no
So-
certificate, because once they they didn't have to fix the septic, all it was a well. Once they tied into the water, they didn't need a certificate of compliance.
But I haven't approved the Title V inspection yet.
Because they didn't give us a new
So-
one showing tied into town
So it was
water.
okay to pass papers without that?
Yeah, I don't even know how they closed without a passing.
A lot of times what the inspector does is he approves it himself, shows it to the bank, they sell the house, and then like, we actually got this
Okay.
one day, and then they closed on the house the next, so I really didn't have time to react and to call people and tell them of that. It's just, it's it just gets delayed. So- And banks take it without our approval, they just take the actual inspector's approval, unfortunately.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the inspector thought it was passing, didn't even realize.
Yeah, he thought it was passing, and then he called me up, and he's like, what do I do about these nitrates? And I'm like, you gotta fill the system.
So it's on the inspector, to fill passing report when it was failed, because it didn't meet nitrates, and gave it to the
Yeah.
buyer and seller, and now we're in this position where,
Well, I mean, it
Yes.
sounds like the buyer might have a lawsuit against that inspector. Cause he gave them paperwork that illegally closed
Yeah,
their
I
loan.
have the,
that could be an
Inspection
option for
report.
you, because.
Cause
like
the
you said, it's
person who
not
bought
on-
it,
Yeah, I
It does- I
understand
think
your
it says on
hardship,
there.
but it doesn't change the fact of,
yeah.
that well needs.
Well,
to
I
be
just mean like
decommissioned.
for me, like I said, I'm not technically liable. I didn't do anything wrong. I was given this report. I gave it to who I was, but I'm trying to advocate
Right.
because, you know, it probably will end up coming back on me somehow, so.
it sounds like it's on the inspector, to be honest with you. If he gave the bank a passing Title V that didn't pass Title V, and they use that document to close on the loan, then the buyer has, you know, action against him, I think. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's what would happen. I've been doing this long enough.
I don't know. Something sounds,
Well,
some get missed or somebody like, I'm surprised they closed. That's,
Well, it's on the
Because
inspector.
this isn't that uncommon, this happens a lot.
no, I'm just saying, like, they're getting tighter and tighter on what they want to see before they close on stuff now. It's just, you know what I mean?
They just need to pass a Title V report, so that's what he gave them
Yeah.
incorrectly. That's what I think brought us to this point.
Because if he had put failed on it until it got abandoned, then it wouldn't have closed.
Right.
So, well, I think it's on him, so I think we should notify the buyers and explain what happened and let them take whatever action they need to take, I guess.
Again, because like you said, you don't own it anymore, so
I don't,
understand
no.
you're here trying to advocate for them, but now
I wasn't even sure if I should come, because I don't own it.
Right.
There's nothing I can really do.
like, legally,
honestly,
you can't go on somebody's property.
I can't go on their property to
Right.
even have it filled in, but I wanted to at least, you know, have them provide the information and do the right thing so that,
Right.
you know, you guys are
Right.
gonna obviously have to contact them if I didn't come and tell you that. It would just be,
Right, well,
You know.
I think that dealing with the Title V, knowing that had to be filled, I think they have contacted them. It said it, you know, like you said, your septic fails without that filled, there's no way around it, and you don't wanna put a new septic in, that's.
well, yeah, it's brand new.
it
Well,
was
not brand new,
2000.
but
No, but it's working, so
13
the
years
only
old
reason
and
it
it's,
was in
you
failure
know,
is
in good
because of this
condition.
well. Again, the 3,000 sounds awfully high, but again, I'm not a well driller, for a point, if it is a point well.
Yeah, I mean, full to fill and.
Will they fill it, I think, will they fill it with gunite or something? But a big well, it takes a lot, and a casing to fill it, but, it's just a point.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I can contact the buyers and see, and try to take a look at it and see if they can get a little remote or something like that. You know, but, and do you know if they moved in?
Yeah,
They moved in.
yeah, they're there.
And you said you did have pictures of that well being cut?
I do, yeah, I have
Is there
them.
any way you could maybe forward them to us, or just?
I can
have
give
them
you
go-
these copies,
Okay.
I can forward them too,
Okay.
but I
Just so
like,
we have for our folder.
yeah, I
knowing
have
that
two
this is a
copies, I like
contaminated
marked
well.
one up, just so that you knew like what you were looking at,
Yeah.
but then I put the original so that you know I didn't like try to doctor it or
Okay.
anything. I
Alright.
just like labeled where the house pipe was,
Yeah.
the street, and then which one was the well.
Oh, I do have this photo. This is a photo of this isn't the actual well. This is just the connection.
That's the connection, yeah.
Okay. So that we don't.
The well really is just all that's left of it, cause the pump and everything's gone
Okay.
out of the house. When I had the plumber come and install the Clock Shores meter, he took the pump.
Thank you.
So there's no pump or anything. So all that's left is just the cap that sticks out of the ground, probably, 2 or 3 feet.
So that's the
Well, I mean,
old well
That's
pipe.
part of the decommissioning,
You're
is
talking-
pulling out the well, pulling out the pump and everything, and then they just.
Yeah, the pump's gone. So the
See the
pump's
two
already
pieces?
been removed. it's gone off the
Cut the old
property.
one.
Yeah,
The
so
plumber
it's,
took
The new one
it,
is
so
sitting
that's
right there.
not even in the house.
yeah, so it should be a lot less than 3,000 if they're just filling it, if everything's been removed.
Yeah, everything
And
from
it's
the
only 20
house
feet
and
deep.
anything connected to the house is gone. All that pipe, everything, the pump has been removed.
Did you see them pulling out the pump?
Yeah, it was there, it was in the house.
And it was about 20 feet of pipe?
Oh, I've pulled that well out multiple times, because I've had to fix it.
Okay.
Yeah, well, there's a connector, so they pull out that piece, and then I think to there's like a connection piece that I've had to replace a couple times. I wanna say that's probably like 25 feet.
Okay, so if it's a shallow well.
It's gotta be a shallow
It
well.
might be in this, does it say it in this report? I know
No,
it's
so
a
the
fairly.
report is just the septic system, it doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't say anything about the well, okay.
All right, then let's start there. Let's send the new homeowners a letter, let them know what's going on, and
Yeah.
And let them know this well is highly contaminated, it's not to be used, it's
Um,
failed.
I have other stuff, I don't know if you need it, just to show that it was tied in. I have like a letter from Clark Shore saying that it was tied in on May 22nd and turned on, like their water was turned on. I have like my contract with them, I have, this is all copies that you can keep, I have invoices from the plumber, the excavator, Clark Shores. So it just, all of that is just proof to show that it was tied in, yeah, and those are all copies. so you
Yeah,
can
pull
keep
them out with a chain.
But obviously, it's my
Yeah,
name
rip it
because
out of
I
the
don't own it
Many times,
anymore, but,
but,
well, I appreciate your time.
you know, and we'll follow up with the new owners and definitely keep them aware of what we're looking for.
Okay.
At least it's tied in.
It
I
is,
mean,
yes,
So
it-
their
it-
health hazard is gone.
Yes,
That's-
absolutely, yeah, I mean, and
but-
like I said, I made sure that I went above and beyond to get the picture
Right.
and have them take the pump completely
Right.
out of the house so that there was no
This is a well
option.
we never want to
So-
hook back up again. That's why it's so important to get it removed from the ground.
I wish I knew sooner
Nobody-
because we've been drinking that water for 13 years.
That's why we recommend
and giving
everybody
it to
test
me.
their
I've gotten it
water
tested, I had it tested.
every year. We
2 years ago.
recommend.
So right now, state law doesn't require like private wells to be, to be tested.
Right.
There's legislation proposed that we've actually signed on back in it to require people just to do basic well testing annually
Yeah.
because it's private. We can't just go
Yeah.
on there and test your stuff, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I did it 2 years ago and I'm surprised that it didn't
Yeah, the,
come back high at that point. Cause I went through, University of Massachusetts was doing like it was a free thing, but they told you like when you signed on that if it was like obviously contaminated, they would contact the Board of Health. And I had all the testing and
and
everything
maybe it
done.
just didn't get to a point yet in the
But,
system where the system
yeah.
started flowing that way and just it took them until
Well, I know
now.
there's been a lot of changes in Clark Shores over the past few years too, with other people
The new
and
houses, yeah.
wells
getting
and the
built up a
water
little
and all
more.
kind rumbling stuff under there, maybe it did something, I don't know. But anyways, thank you, I appreciate your
I
time.
appreciate
coming
it.
in.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
do we need to vote on this?
So there's nothing in writing. We could take a vote
Just to be safe, to say to
to
send the
send a
letter.
letter that I
And-
would,
and that's-
I would agree, it won't affect them, but I
Yeah,
would, that, where it hadn't come to the board before,
yeah.
I agree. We should, and then we'll send that vote to the new owners and let them be aware of what,
All right, I'll make a motion, we send a letter to the new owners of 1 Violet Street, letting them know that their septic system with the old well on it is currently in failure. And to get it out of failure, they need to abandon the well that's there. And feel free to reach out to Ed, and meet with them and, have them help them with any questions that they might have.
it must be abandoned through a licensed well driller.
And
per state
abandon, yeah.
Regulations.
Abandon the right way, do a license, well driller.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. You good with that, Ed?
Yeah,
And just make sure you state the well was contaminated for them high levels, just so that people are aware, and
right, definitely.
that's the reasoning why it must be removed. All right.
Come on up, Pat.
Next on the agenda, 43 Planetary Drive, meet with owner for a waiver for an easement to a butter's well. Another well issue. Pat?
Patrick McGonigal. I'm here for a variance for a well over the property line, which doesn't meet the setbacks for the Board of Health, and to allow 2 wells on a single lot.
Okay.
And as long as, I'm fine with that, as long as there's an easement so the other person can get to their well and fix it if they need to.
So that well has an easement on it already.
Oh, there's already one on
There's
there?
already one on that well, but that easement was formed before the lot was subdivided.
Okay.
So that's why I'm,
Was that easement recorded in the
yes,
registry of deeds?
yep,
Okay.
yep, it's on file.
So you following that, Ed? So there's already an easement been on this property before they divided the lot off?
Yes, so that well already, once, Peter Panettiere realized that the well was not on the correct property, he put an easement onto the well.
Okay.
Does it match the one that's shown there?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Because originally they didn't show it on the plan. I had to send it back and then they,
Yep, so it is the one,
So this easement that's shown on the plan is already recorded?
for the well, that's an easement for utility access, but we're talking about the well.
yeah, that's.
Yeah.
It's utility.
Yeah, so that's already recorded.
Okay.
And that utility easement is
Yeah.
is what the neighbor has for an easement onto that property.
Yeah,
It's-
I didn't know there was already one existing.
Yeah.
I thought they just drew those lines for that.
Okay.
This plan says proposed, doesn't say existing.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh, that would do it.
Yeah, it says a
Which one?
proposed easement.
Yep.
Doesn't say.
It does say proposed, yes, but there already is, easement filed with the Plymouth County on that well.
Okay. So you're just concerned that the board is gonna allow 2 wells on this lot?
Yeah, my thing is I just wanna get everything
Yeah. Now,
finalized before I start the project and then realize that it's,
there's something.
yeah. Yep,
And I don't believe we have any reg at all
Against it.
against 2 wells on a property. I think we've gone through this
Yeah.
before. There are no
Yeah.
regs that you can't have 2 wells on a property
Good.
per local regs or Title
Not that
V.
I'm aware of,
Okay.
Yeah, as long as we get a copy of the easement so we know it's really there, but I don't even think you gotta do anything. You could have them take proposed off maybe. So,
But, I mean, like I said, we can take a vote.
yeah, if you need something for the bank or something like
Or
that.
just in,
yeah, I just wanna
On
have
the
everything in the
record that-
records, yep.
2 wells are allowed on a property and there's an easement done correctly on
Yeah,
the existing one. And it meets all setbacks to the well, to septics. There's no, you're not creating a septic,
no, it's nowhere near it.
variance. You meet all of Title V on your proposed new construction 4-bedroom. There's
Yep.
no. Yeah, so I don't see
This gonna
anything.
be your house with spec?
Spec.
All right,
Nobody's here to speak to this besides the buyer.
all right, I'll make a motion that we confirm that the existing easement is there as shown on the plan. And that we, for the sake of records, put on record that the town of Lakeville has no regulation against 2 wells on one property. And that we're fine with it. I don't know the legal language, but,
It meets all of Title
and
V.
it meets all of Title V.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So, yeah, just get him a copy of that, the easement.
We'll
And
just
then
confirm.
put it in the file and we'll back up. It'll go along with the vote we just took.
Alright, perfect. Thank you.
No
Thanks.
problem.
Next on the agenda, the Mia Thai Cuisine, 60 Court Street, Plymouth, Mass. Annual mobile food permit pending inspection on Friday, June 20th. You said that day may change? We're not doing it the 20th? They were busy that day or no? You're still doing it Friday?
Yeah, no, they are doing the inspection on June 20th, I believe.
Okay, and the only question on the permit,
This is the date of approval.
the date of approval, it was on 7/4/20 Yeah, that,
It says 7/12/25.
7/12, but it'll
that should get
be-
changed to today,
it will actually be approved as of tonight,
yeah.
6/18, as of the vote, and pending inspection, so
Yeah.
it won't be approved until after, once the inspection is done.
So, yeah, June 20th.
It's approved.
Anybody?
I'm good.
I'll make a motion that we approve the annual mobile food permit pending the inspection for the Mia Thai Cuisine from Plymouth, Mass.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next on the agenda, we have the reappointments of Assistant Board of Health agents. That's all three of us for the period of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, of 2026. We obviously cannot vote for ourselves. We have to vote for all three. I'm first on the list.
I'll make a motion, we approve we appoint Derek Maxim, a Assistant Board of Health agent for the time of July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion, we approve Chris Pratt, reappoint Chris Pratt, an Assistant Board of Health agent for the period of July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion, we reappoint Robert Palucci, Assistant Board of Health Agent for the period of July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
We've been doing this for so long, we're actually good at it now.
Yeah.
Surprising.
Do we want to keep Ed on?
Yes, Ed's the,
This is just milk and cream.
okay, next on the
Can't
agenda,
get somebody else to do milk and cream?
we have to recommend to the select board to appoint Edward Cullen as the inspector of milk for the period of July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026.
Is that a motion?
I'm just reading it, no motion.
I'll make a motion that we recommend to the select board to appoint Ed Cullen as the inspector of milk for the period of July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda, review and approve meeting minutes as typed for January 30th, 2025. This had been continued from May 21st, 2025. It was the planning board joint meeting at 7 p.m. I believe it was big, so we didn't have I had read through it, a lot of pages of it. It was an hour and a half meeting. I was okay with it. I have no comments. Chris?
I'm good.
Bob?
I'm good.
I'll make a motion, we approve the Board of Health Joint Planning Board meeting from January 30th, 2025 as typed.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next is the March 19th, 2025 meeting. All three members were present. I have no issues with it. I read through it and didn't see any errors. Chris?
Good.
Bob?
Yeah, I'm good.
I'll make a motion, we approve the Board of Health meeting minutes dated March 19th, 2025 as typed.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, next on the agenda, we're gonna discuss public water supplies in Lakeville and their regulatory authority. I don't know, I know,
Alright, I
Want to
asked to put
speak?
this on
Bob?
because I was getting a bunch of stuff. I don't have Facebook, but I was getting a lot of stuff sent to me. And there seems to be a lot of misinformation out there, from the public. So, first, I'm gonna ask people, when they watch this, if they question what we say, the Attorney General can confirm it, and they will answer you on a matter like this from when you have a question about the Board of Health. So type them an email and ask them Does the local Board of Health have any authority to supersede DEP? Does the Board of Health have any authority at all when it comes to public water supplies? You will find out the answer is no to both questions. All our authority to do this, what we do every week or two, comes from DEP. They give towns the ability, because they don't have the time to review every septic system and every well and every Title V. So all the authority for this kind of stuff, the main question is on public water supplies, comes from DEP. That's why if we vote on something and you don't like our answer, you can appeal to DEP. But if DEP does something, you can't appeal to us because we have no more authority over changing one of their regs or one of their decisions than we do to go out on 18 and change the speed limit because we don't like it. So we literally have no authority over DEP. Now, some of the things that are being said was that specifically are about Clark Shores and LeBaron. So let me start with Clark Shores. Clark Shores, the wells that got put in were permitted by DEP, who helped them get grants for some of the money to put them in. They asked for input from this board, but they didn't enact anything we asked them. So they went ahead, a little history from the 40s or 50s. Clark Shore had seasonal water, was only on for a few months in the summer, got shut off. In the 40s and 50s, the people didn't know or didn't need to put a deed restriction on those homes because they had no water. So when there's no water, it's called portable water, and so you can't live there. When DEP was permitting this and talking about running year-round water down there, we had a lot of concerns because then legally, all those houses could become year-round once they hooked up to them. They didn't seem to care, and they went ahead and permitted them, and we had no authority to inspect the stuff before they backfilled it. They permitted everything themselves. They gave us no authority at all over the installation, where the money went, how it was spent, the contractors, nothing. We had nothing to do with that at all. The problem most people are having now, and we all agree, I think my whole board agrees, is the budget for the well, for the testing, for all the stuff involved in that and the loans that they have was based on about 400 houses being hooked up. I currently don't think that there's 100 houses hooked up. So that means all the people down there are paying exorbitant amounts of money for their water, in my opinion. It did raise the value of their homes a lot when it became that, but that's neither here or there. It's not what they were promised when they got hooked up. I personally, and since the other two have got on, have probably spent more time dealing with the Clark Shores water than any other thing that we've ever talked about and dealt with and tried to help. Last year, we literally had a group of people from down there. They came to every one of our meetings for the better part of a year to see what we were doing so they could understand what was happening down there. And I think they came to understand that we were doing everything legally we could do as far as making people hook up when we could, just like the last meeting and another one that's going on. The more people that get hooked up, the better their situation will get. But their water is perfectly safe. It's tested. There is no water quality. No one's hooked up that's drinking unsafe water. We actually, for the last few years, have been adding to approvals that when somebody does a septic, that when the water gets run down their street, they have, I think, 90 days that they have to tie into it to try to help them get more homes hooked up and to make it a safe system. So there's literally, if anybody has an idea or something legal we can do, come on to a meeting and tell us. We're happy to do whatever we can do to try to help people with that. The other one that's all over the place is LeBaron, and I've had multiple conversations over the years with that. Town water, that comes from Taunton, city of Taunton. We never see a plan, we never get asked about it, we don't get involved at all in town water. It's another thing that's out of our control. The DEP and the treatment plants in the cities, they have their own regulations and what they need to do and how they need to pass it. The people, when they want to put in a project, literally come to the selectmen in this town. They authorize the amount of gallons a day the people want to use. And after that, they hook it up. Normally, since in the last so many years, it's always been in private projects. Sometimes Taunton inspects it, sometimes they don't. LeBaron's biggest problem is, again, it's the price, it's the billing. Instead of putting individual meters on every single home, they're paying a very high rate divided equally, whether there's one person living in a house or 6 people living in a house. And it's not fair, in my opinion. Again, that's not fair. But that's how it was when the people bought into it. That's what due diligence is for. But again, I think that they're not getting a fair deal. And I think that should be addressed. But again, we have no authority to call Taunton and tell them to stop master metering it and put individual meters in the homes, or what rate they can charge for the water to that project. Again, it had nothing to do with us. I'm hoping after that mess, and I think after that mess, that when the selectmen approve water going forward, they will make a stipulation that every single home has to have its own meter. I sincerely hope that they do that in all future approvals, so this doesn't happen again. And it's more money for the developer to do it that way, but to me, it's fairer for the residents. But again, they have no water quality issues. That's tested right in Lakeville at the treatment plant we have over there. There's a big lab in there. That's tested multiple times a day. The water is perfectly safe to drink and bathe in. The question is the billing and if they're being treated fairly under the way it's master metered. But again, it's not a water quality thing. I know DEP, we've seen a report, got involved because they're calling it a public water supply, so that they're asking LeBaron to, this letter was posted on one of the Facebook pages, that's why I'm referring to it. It's public record anyway, it's from DEP. And they want that type of testing done. It sounds to me like as if it was a well. Even though it's not, they want to start having regular tests in the complex, which, again, that's DEP is already addressing that with them. And I was told last week that the selectmen weren't, I believe they're not getting more building permits until it's resolved. I'm not sure 100% if that's true or not, but I was told that recently. And the new homes in there, I was told also are starting to have their own meters. So, which is a step in the right direction for that. So again, though, if people are saying, I know one of my fellow board members tried making a comment and people jumped all over him. I got that sent to me and it was very unfair, saying we don't care, we're not doing anything for the people. It's just not true. And again, go on the Attorney General's page and ask them those 2 questions. And when you find out, try to be constructive. If you can come up with something that we haven't thought of all these years, I, for one, am happy to put it on a meeting and address it with whoever's idea it is. But again, that's totally 100% under DEP. And that's, you guys can comment if you want, but that's all I have to say about it.
One thing I would add too is, if anyone out there like has questions, come to a meeting. I mean, like, social media is not the place to be doing this stuff. Like, I try to answer a question here or there, and it devolves into chaos. So, like, I want to have like a courteous, nice discussion, but it just doesn't happen on social media. So it's not like, you just walk away. So we're here
Twice a month.
twice a month. We're happy to discuss any questions people have. Yeah, I don't want to, it's just hard to get sucked into things and be I don't know, fodder for other people's agendas and stuff like that. And yeah, I just don't want it to be that way. So come to a public meeting and we'll talk about it.
Okay, and then just the other, I believe, comment, I read through some of the paperwork Ed had sent on it. And I believe they're going back with DEP in the city of Taunton, in, LeBaron. I believe, yeah, the testing, they wanted to make sure the hydrants were getting flushed inside the Barron, because the city of Taunton does not go inside the gates of LeBaron to flush the hydrants, and there's a lot of water main in there. I believe that was one of the issues that came up. I believe some of the gate valves in LeBaron weren't working when they went in and found out they didn't work. So I think that's another issue. And then I think on another issue, they, like you'd mentioned, they actually want to test, when you said they test the city of Taunton water, that is correct, and they do test the hydrants throughout for water, but they do not test the hydrants in past that master meter into LeBaron. I think that was one of the concerns. Where this is now, I believe it's over 15 homes and 25 people, 15 service connections, or regular services on an average of 25 individuals daily and at least 60 days a year. That consists of a public water system, which LeBaron does.
LeBaron's way over that.
Right, so they're,
One street's over that
but
probably.
DEP is, I believe, I can just turn it over to Ed too, is dealing with them and their attorneys on this 100%.
Yeah, I don't know
To clarify.
what the current status is, but yeah, they're in contact with each other, both Taunton, DEP, and LeBaron themselves are all communicating about how to resolve the situation, but I don't know how it's gonna turn out.
Okay, but it is getting resolved between the three parties. Again, the
They're
Board of Health.
communicating, I don't know if it's getting
Right.
resolved, if they're communicating.
And again, they have no communication with us as the Board of Health, nothing. We don't get notified of the meetings, when they're meeting, what they're doing. We just reached out to try to get this information to see what they were doing. Any other comments on that, Ed, or where water supply is? Any update on anything in Clark Shores with the water on, I know we were nonstop on that, but.
No, not too much lately.
Still all. Okay. So we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, number 8, discussion regarding transit-oriented development. The Lakeville MBTA station, this is the old T station, now they've moved it into Middleborough. Is the planning board to reach out to us or the select board?
It was actually the
Town
town administrator.
Okay,
Just informed you that there will be a meeting on June 23rd, and you're invited, whether you choose to have one person go, or you can all
okay,
say one person can go, or, I mean, it's open to the public, so you can all go.
okay, that was my next, it's open to the public.
One person represents you if you have any comments for that meeting.
The meeting is scheduled for the June 23rd at 6 p.m. And the MBTA will be sending several representatives to the meeting to discuss. It is the plans to develop the Lakeville MBTA station into a transient-oriented development, but no specific details have been finalized or shared. There's still over 200 spots that will remain for Cape Flyer in the summertime. And they are committed to working with the town for the best possible use of the area. So I guess they're just looking for maybe some input from the town. I don't know if us as a Board of Health, anybody would like to go and
It'd be interesting.
input.
I had put it in my calendar, just as a placeholder. I would mind going. Be curious how honest it'll be, because, do remember a time when they told the select board member that they weren't moving the station, and the very next night they told Middleborough they were moving the station, so.
I gotta go for MRI at 7:30 that night, so I won't be there, so. But if Derek, if you wanna go too, you guys just gotta post it.
I'm good with Chris going, if you're
That's fine.
going, represent the Board of Health and feedback, if anything, just so we can let anybody watching what they're thinking.
Yeah.
I don't know if we.
I don't know how much stuff will impact us either.
That's what's my
over
next
there,
question. Is
yeah.
there anything you can think of that's gonna impact the Board of Health?
Again, that'll end up being a treatment plan or something, and that'll be DEP. Anything over 10,000 gallons is DEP.
Did I see something? Like, was there talk of like some kind of building or something going on over there or no?
That's not transient housing though.
No, it's just transit oriented development,
Oh,
not transient.
well, you know what I mean.
We don't know what they're thinking.
Yeah, I thought I.
You never know with the
That was
state.
probably just something I saw on social media, but anyway.
Would be good to know what they are thinking.
Be good to know what's going on.
Okay, so Chris will, it said, do we have to reach out to them, just let them know we are sending a representative from the Board of Health?
Yeah, send an email tomorrow.
Yeah, it does say,
Just
because they want to know if they have to have more room.
Yeah, so
Please
just
let me know
reach
if you
out
have any
tomorrow
cons-
and just tell them that Chris will be coming to represent the board. of
And
health.
we have no concerns at this time? They're asking if we have any concerns. Any housing concerns? I don't know if that even is what they're talking about there. I don't know what they're talking about there.
Who knows?
I guess just say I have none at this time,
As far as,
because we don't even know what they're thinking.
yeah, as far as the septic, it has nothing to do with us. As far as private citizens, we might have questions, so if something's really offending you, Chris, it's not something to do with the septic, make sure you're asking as a private citizen. Don't get us all in trouble.
Okay, so you write that on your calendar. So that is June 23rd, 6 PM. And that is
it here?
Or at the, do we know where it's at?
I don't know if it says.
I was just reading that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, location. I can find that out.
Okay. We'll find out the location. Discuss recent Board of Health agent pending items. Ed, any pending items?
So Massachusetts got its first mosquito sample of West Nile virus it was on Tuesday. It was in Shrewsbury, which is next to Worcester, so it wasn't in this area, but it is kind of early for West Nile or anything this time of year. Normally we don't get start getting mosquito samples till July, and so it's not a good sign, I guess. It has been pretty wet lately. It's been raining every almost weekend for a while now, so
14 in a row,
yeah, so
but they're saying not this one.
yeah, well, hopefully we get some dry weather, because like I said, it's rough to kind of a bad start with that.
Yeah, it rained almost every Saturday last summer, right? Just about.
Also this weekend and Monday, Tuesday especially, we're expecting a big heat wave. So they always say the first is the worst, because it's been kind of cool, and when you get really hit with a really heat wave, that's when you get a lot of hospital visits. So just let everyone know, there is the COA. They do have it's called it's a cooling center. So if the COA is open, you're welcome to go there and cool off if you do not have air conditioning or anything like that. When it is open, if it's not open and you request it, there is a number you can call, which is 508-947-4121, which is actually the fire department, and they will open it for you. So like I said, if it's really hot on Sunday and you get a call, they will provide something for you to get cooled off. So like I said, it's especially Monday and Tuesday, I think are gonna be the worst. So just get prepared and be prepared. And also, if you know someone who's older or has trouble dealing with heat, just try to check on them. Both neighbors, relatives and things like that. It's, like I said, it's gonna be a good heat wave. And like I said, we haven't had anything like this hot yet this year. So just try to prepare for it.
Change your filter in your air conditioner if you haven't recently. Heat can get through a clogged filter. It's thinner and lighter than cold can. So a lot of the ACs start going and freezing up this time of year when it first gets hot, because they call for a service tech and they come out and it's just a filter. And you pay for a service call and you have to wait a day to let it thaw out before you can turn it on and make it work. So a $5 filter that takes 15 minutes to change will save you a lot of headaches next week.
anything on, ticks? I know we've got that new variance of ticks out there. Anything from the state on ticks?
Not too much. I mean, they don't, it's tougher to monitor the ticks the way they do mosquitoes because, most, like deer ticks are positive for Lyme. I mean, we already know that. So it's just, and the thing is, when you get bit by a tick, a lot of times you don't get the symptoms till like weeks later. So it's tougher to do that. And like with mosquitoes, they do a lot of spraying and things like that, but they really don't do much for ticks. It's kind of on the person to do it themselves, whether it's, just spraying DEET or spraying a yard or things like that, and just, wearing protective clothing. It's mainly on the person, whereas the state does a lot for mosquito control. And we use Plymouth County Mosquito Control, and they will spray for free. All you have to do is call them. Go on our website, they have the number there. We've sprayed the parks. I've made 2 requests already. You can make up to 8 requests per year. So like I said, it's a good time to do it now to keep those numbers down. So before it gets too many later on.
Okay.
Yeah, ticks. I went to a thing last fall. Just fixing the food chain would actually was the only real way that we'll get ticks back into control. Basically, we need to reintroduce wolves into the Northeast.
Oh, really? To get rid of the deer.
Because it'll do it'll realign the food chain itself. So like more, because the biggest vectors are mice and birds that carry the ticks with the virus. That's how the islands are like chock full of all the diseases, because the birds the mice get on a ship or the birds fly over. But more rodents get eaten, and then there's less chance for birds to get them. And I don't know. But yeah, we're not reintroducing wolves into the Northeast. So
But I did hear that too, like on some of the new diseases, like alpha gal, which is the one where you get allergic to red meat. Yeah, that's from the Lone Star tick. On the islands, it's really prevalent because it's being brought up by birds. And so it's been on the islands, and now it's on the coast and like Marion, Metapoiset. And it is moving here. I don't know if it's in Lakeville yet, but it will eventually be in Lakeville.
yeah, the Bedford. I heard about it last year.
Yeah.
I treated all my pants last week.
Yeah, permethelin's great on your boots and your pants, and it's you can't put it on your skin, but you can put it on your clothes, and it'll last about 6 weeks or something like that.
Or 6 washings, something
6
like
washes,
that.
okay.
Yeah. So 6 weeks ish.
All right, anything else?
I'm good.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.